Okay, we are live now. You can make me the co-host. Oh yes, thank you.
You can admit, Roman, that's actually Tui. She's using somebody's computer. She was in my last class. Hello, hello, come on in. Hi, Tui. You're back. I don't think I've taught the basic nutrition class for a couple weeks. I think it wasn't on this, might not have been on the schedule last week. There's only so many spots for classes, so. Hi, Jackie. Audrey's here.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm great. Yeah, it's Friday, so I'm excited to have a couple days off. That'll be nice. All right, well, we'll just let a few more people get to class. I'm just going to check how many numbers we have. Seems a bit quiet. Seems a little quiet today. Probably because the weather is nice and
it's hot in Texas, in Houston.
Is it? Yeah, it's not too bad here, but it's supposed to be a hot weekend. That's what they're saying. All right, well, welcome to everybody that has arrived so far, and we'll slowly just be adding people in here. If I recognize your name, I'm doing it. We have Nancy from support helping us out today, and she is here. If you've got any technical issues or you just need some help with anything to do with your tech of your computer or phone, she might be able to help you. So just reach out to her. And so I'll start by sharing my screen. We've already started recording, which is great. Just to make sure we're all in the right spot, because there's definitely lots of classes going on simultaneously. So sometimes you never know if you ended up in the wrong spot. But today's class is on basic nutrition. So we're going to learn some really neat things to do with nutrition for us older adults. Things are a little different, and we sometimes don't think about that, and we often don't know about these things we're going to talk about today, because it's just not it's not what's cool. That's not what they don't target a lot of information to our cohort, of our age cohort. They do a lot of with families and children is a really big, and I do talk about that in my detox class for detoxifying your home. A lot of the material out there is really focused on families, young families, which is great, but it doesn't really talk to us as older adults. So we're going to look at a lot of that. And I believe I've met just about everybody in this class, but if you haven't, I'm Ravina, I'm one of the guides, and I've been teaching since February of this year, and it's been really fun. I've really learned a lot. The fact that I teach these classes weekly, it is a great reminder to myself for my own health. And so I have to say that since I started kind of really focusing on my own health, or wanting to, doing these classes has been fantastic, because it's like my brain is hearing me say it, whatever it is I'm talking to you guys about. So I mean, I've increased my omega-3s, I'm eating the rainbow. I always think about the rainbow when I'm eating now. So some of these little things I've been saying to all of you is I'm getting it reinforced in myself. So that's really exciting. So let's get moving here. Yeah, that's about it for me. If you guys ever have questions and want to know more about me, feel free to ask in the chat, or in ask me out loud. You're welcome to. I'm quite happy to share things. I had one learner wanting to know about my functional nutrition background and where I actually learned functional nutrition, because she was thinking of taking a course. So I set up something to talk to her privately afterwards over Zoom and give her some information. So I'm more than happy to talk to you. If we don't have time during a class or at the end of a class, then we can certainly talk at a later time. We can just arrange that. So we do learn from each other as well. Like, boy, do I learn a lot from your questions that you ask, and from just listening to the questions that you might ask and hearing your comments and your stories. So that's really great to share. We are recording today, and we are also live streaming this class. So some classes get live streamed, some don't. It just depends on the schedule. Nutrition and health and wellness is very important to all of us. And so you probably have been in classes of mine that have been live streamed. So we'll just say hi to all those guys out there, guys and girls, men and women. There could be one person watching, or there could be 0, or there could be 100 people watching us. So the difference is they can hear us and they can see us, but they cannot see the chat. So if we say hello in the chat, or we ask questions, they can't see that. And then also, which is even more important, is that they don't get the email, that the post email I send. Usually I send a few little notes out. They won't get that. So got a pretty busy class today, but yeah, so if you can put your camera on, it's awesome. That's great. I mean, we're getting to know each other this way. We're getting to, if you have a camera on your computer, if not, or you're shy, that's totally fine, but please still ask your questions. And then lastly, we don't get paid anything to promote a product or a service. So if I talk about something, it's just something that I actually like and that I use myself possibly, or something that somebody's told me. So let's look at the agenda, the objectives. Simply, we're going to look at how does nutrition change as we age. You know, we could feel like we're a pretty healthy person, guy or girl, pretty healthy, we're in our 60s, but what are some things to know that will just kind of go, aha, okay, I did notice that changing with me, but I didn't know if that was because I was getting sick or if it's natural. So that's why this is important. So, if you see some of these changes, it doesn't necessarily mean that now you've got some disease. And I think it's really important. The more awareness we have, the better we can do with our health. We're going to look at the 4 factors that affect nutrition as an older adult. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about some really simple nutrition basics, and basic enough that if nutrition is not your gig, you will be able to teach your neighbor or your partner or your child or your grandchild something that you've learned from today's class. And so that's exciting. I like to be able to do that. And then we're going to look at 3 important nutrients that if you don't have it in your daily life, I would recommend that you consider bringing this into your life. Talk to your doctor. I always stipulate that, and I'll say it up front here. I am not a doctor. I do have a nursing degree. I have several years in the healthcare field, and I have a functional nutrition background. So I'm looking at holistic and some Chinese medicine, traditional Chinese medicine I've studied. But for the purposes of giving out medical advice, that's not the purpose of why I'm here. Definitely talk to your own healthcare professional about anything that you decide that you're going to change in what you're going to maybe start doing in your life. Yeah, I just have to say that for legal purposes as well. All right, so let's get started. I want to know who here, and you can type in the chat yes or no, or give me a thumbs up so I know that you agree. But who here finds that it rather confusing at times, not all the time, but rather confusing at times to understand what is considered proper nutrition for me today? Do we feel like there's a lot of information out there and it is a little bit conflicting sometimes? I do. I mean, I'm studying everything that comes out. So I'm looking at, what's the study talking about? What's the study talking about? I think that it can be confusing at times. Like, right now, like, is it safe to be on the keto diet for more than a month? Who knows, right? Like, sometimes we don't know. So I believe that. Now, let's look at what changes as we age. Number 1, as an older adult, maybe you now live on your own. Could you like, maybe you lived with a big household, but now you're by yourself, maybe a spouse has passed away, you might live on your own. When we live on our own, we tend to, it's not about laziness, it's just we tend to not want to spend as much time preparing that healthy, balanced meal 3 times a day, every day. I mean, that's a lot of meal preparation in a week, right? 7 days, 3 times 3. I mean, that's a lot of meals. And sometimes we just get tired of doing it. That could be a reason that our nutrition is changing as we age, because yeah, we just don't have that desire anymore. Maybe when you were cooking for a spouse, you were like excited, or even when we had kids, remember, dinner was on the table at 5:30 every day, because, and there was always something colorful like carrots on the plate, because you want to make sure that your young one doesn't grow up, with lacking in any way. So we would be very particular with our kids and our grandkids to make sure that they're getting their vitamins and minerals. But what about us? Do we forget about us? We go, I'm already 70. I haven't died so far. I'm just going to eat whatever. I'm not really that hungry. And we're going to get into that. I'm just not that hungry. I know my dad takes shortcuts when his person is not helping him on 2 days of the 7. He doesn't have somebody helping him with meals. And when we come to visit, I know he eats a little bit more. I think he gets just tired in the evenings, and he sometimes kind of skips having his supper. But anyways, this is the number one thing that changes. The number 2 we talked about in the question. Nutrition can sometimes be confusing. Maybe you're looking at a new recipe and it's like, you've never heard of this new thing. Like, what's monk fruit sweetener? I have no idea. Like, I didn't know about it about a month ago. Now I know what monk fruit sweetener is, and which I can share with you if you're interested. So that's the number 2 thing. This is interesting. As we get age, there's challenges like an illness or a disability or isolation, which we have all discovered is not great. But it could prevent us from getting at the nutritional food that we need to maintain a healthy lifestyle. So what if you live out in the country a little bit, or maybe you're not as close to the grocery store as you were before? Maybe you're kind of a little bit scared to go to the grocery store like you used to go 2 or 3 times a week, but now it's like you go once every 2 weeks, the least amount of interaction with other people right now, while we're still trying to figure out this whole world pandemic thing. So isolation, disability, illness, like what if you've been sick? Can you get to the grocery store to get those beautiful perishable vegetables and fruits? Or are you just like going, I'm not feeling good the last couple days, I'm just going to eat what's in my cupboard? So that can really affect how nutrition is for us. This one's really important, and I stress this. I want to stress this. Nutrition is just as important for us in older age as it is when we were young. Again, we were concentrating on our young children. Like babies. It's so important for nutrition. School age kids. Yep, they're growing. Their brains are growing. Everything's growing. They need to have this nutrition. Teenagers. Wow. They're growing so fast, and they're going to be adults soon. We need to make sure that their nutrition is sound. Well, what about us older adults? Yes, you do, because you are typically at more risk of getting things like, if you were in my last class, getting dementia, just because you're older can be there. You are at more risk of other diseases at this age. Therefore, it's just as important, if not more important, to look at your nutrition, that it is a sound nutrition situation for you. And I get it. If you live on your own and maybe you're a bit lonely, maybe you're a little bit depressed, maybe you have nobody to cook for anymore, you've lost your interest in creating new recipes or finding new recipes. I get it, but we're going to try and change that around. The number 5 one, this one we're going to delve into a little bit more. Yes, so Camilla's just saying, yeah, you're skipping meals all the time. And I know, and when you skip meals, unless it's intentional because you're doing a intermittent fasting, for example, if you're fasting overnight and you're maybe not having breakfast till 11 o'clock, I'm okay with that. But if you're skipping meals here and there because you're tired, you're bored, you're sad, you're you know, you can't get access to the food that you need, then that's a problem. Then I want us to turn that around. So number 5, undernourished older adults. Do you know that that's more common than we even know? You might have a neighbor down the street that is undernourished and you don't even realize. You can be quite overweight looking and be undernourished. In fact, chances are, if you do know somebody in your neighborhood that is quite obese, I bet you that they have an issue with their nutrition levels. So they're probably undernourished, even though they're carrying a lot of weight. So we're going to talk about that. Now, what happens if you're undernourished? You're not fighting infection as good as you could if you were in sound body. You're not fighting infections, whether it's a cold or the flu or COVID. Like, I'll just throw that one out there because I can say that one now. What about experiencing cognitive issues? If you're undernourished and your brain doesn't have the nutrients, the minerals, and the vitamins to fight off or do the processes it needs to do inside to cleanse and all the wonderful things, you're going to have cognitive issues. You're going to have some troubles, maybe with your memory, maybe with, thinking, maybe with making decisions. What if you need to make some critical decisions? And then the physical aspect, the muscle weakness. What if you start to get so kind of weak because you're not eating the proper nutrients to even get up and walk around? I know somebody actually that's an older adult that's a little bit depressed, kind of sort of tired of being overweight, and is really doing less and less and less every day. And so her mobility has drastically reduced. She has a cane now. She's not even that old. My goodness, she's in her 60s. And she's kind of depressed because she can't get the weight off, but she's not moving her body. She's probably undernourished, I'm going to guess. So let's talk about undernourishment for a second. What you see up on the screen here, this is real. I learned this I actually learned about this in my nursing degree, but I also focused and learned more about this in my nutrition studies, my functional nutrition studies. Yeah, so Camilla, we're going to talk about the feeling of being hungry and not feeling hungry. So we'll talk a little bit about that as we go through here. So tea and toast syndrome. Do you know that my dad admitted to me on the weekend, last weekend, because I was visiting him, that some nights he goes, yeah, I just make myself a piece of toast. And all of a sudden I stood up for a second. I went, ooh, tea and toast syndrome. He doesn't do it often, he told me, but he said sometimes he's just not hungry. Sometimes he just can't think of what to make for his meal. Sometimes his knee is so sore, bone on his knee joints, that he just doesn't want to stand in the kitchen for very long. So what does he do? He goes and puts toast in the thing, sits on the chair, and then whatever's in the fridge closest to what he can visually see, he slops that onto the toast. Not slops, but he puts the marmalade or whatever it is on the toast, and that's it. He doesn't even drink tea at night because it keeps him up at night to the toilet. So he's having like a piece of toast or a couple pieces of toast, and that's it. This is a real thing, and this can cause malnutrition in us and our neighbor and our loved one. Because in toast, there's not a whole lot of nutrients, most typically in toast. We're putting maybe a sweet spread on top. Maybe if you're lucky, you're getting some peanut butter that might have a little bit of protein. Or maybe you eat it with a hard-boiled egg. That's getting a little bit better. But my grandmother used to do this. And so my mom and I would go and visit her quite often and kind of drill her a little bit, which is probably not the best thing to have done. But we'd say, so what did you have for dinner last night? Oh, what did you have for dinner the night before? We started asking a lot of questions because we were worried that she was doing this whole tea and toast thing, So she lived in England for a while and got into like doing the tea and toast. So the biggest thing that happens with tea and toast syndrome is lack of salt in your body. Like people end up being, there's a term for it, but lacking salt, lacking sodium in your body because you're not eating vegetables and other things that you would normally in this usually third meal of the day. So let's look at the factors then. What are the main areas causing our nutrition to be different as we age? So the first one we've touched on already is social factors. So again, many of us older adults, we might be less interested in cooking, less interested in eating. We've lost our will to eat tasty food or bake tasty food. We might have lost a loved one recently. That's a big one that happens. And it's just like, or here's another thing with this. What if the spouse that's passed away was the cook? You know how when we get together and there's two of us in a home and all of a sudden you don't know how to fill gas anymore? Has that happened to any of you? I mean, I'll say if my husband's with me with the car, he fills the gas. I don't even get out of the car anymore. I hope I remember how to do the buttons and do the whole gas thing. Like, I mean, when you don't do something, you kind of lose it. You got to use it or lose it. So same with cooking. If maybe your wife has been doing a lot of the cooking and now you find yourself living on your own, you're going to have to remember how to do some things. So that's the part of the social factor. What else socially can be affecting our nutrition at our age? Guess what? Most of us live on a fixed income now. Unless you've got royalties coming in from a book that you wrote, or you've got royalties, or you've got some other stream of income coming in, maybe from a rental, maybe you have a rental property. But for most of us, we are on a fixed income. Now, I'm on a fixed income now because I started my pension last year. But the good news for me is that my husband is still working full time. So he has the ability to work overtime or work a little bit more. And again, you might have a rental property. You might have another little stream of income you teach on the side. For me, being on a pension, I'm teaching here at Get Set Up. So I'm making a little bit of income from part-time work. But for the most part, if you are on a fixed income, are you feeling a little bit hard? Is it a little tough when you're going to afford food? Can you just go to Costco and buy up whatever you want? Or do you have to be careful what your limit is on your credit card? Some of us, we find it embarrassing and shameful if we have to say go to a food bank or get some help from one of our kids, or I don't know. I just feel like the emotions that come up for me would be, I would be embarrassed. Like, I know a lot of people use food bank, but I would be feeling like, what happened that I can't afford to buy my own food, that I need help? So that sort of adds into the social factor where you feel a little bit scared to go and use, get some help. The number 2 factor now is reduced appetite. So Camilla, we're going to talk about this a little bit. As we age, from like 30, kind of around 30, we start to lose muscle mass in our body. So, the muscles that we had, like I'm doing strength training right now, so I have a few little muscles here, but we start to slim down. Even if we're overweight, you can be still overweight and weigh quite a bit. It could be more fat. We lose our muscle mass slowly as we age. That's the tendency. When you lose muscle mass, so be clear on this. So for all your life as an adult, maybe you were going to a strength training class, or you're walking every day with your friends and doing stuff to keep your muscles strong. But say you stop doing that, and like since COVID, maybe you've been doing less. You need less calories. The least amount of muscle mass you have, lower muscle mass, lower calories. Your body doesn't need as many calories. That correlates to not being as hungry. Does that make sense? Lower muscle mass, you don't need as many calories. So it's no wonder as we age, we tend to eat less. We have a less appetite. We have less need to eat. Now, that's the reason that naturally as we age, you might feel less hungry. Now, for any of you that have like really strong appetites, be happy that you do. I mean, obviously you want to pick the better foods, but if you've got a strong appetite, I'm happy for you, because at some point, this is my dad's face. He's like, I just don't see food like I used to. And he used to love food, and he's not overweight, but he enjoyed cooking and he enjoyed talking and eating, and he loved all that. And he's sort of lost his luster for that, like he's just, I'm just not that hungry anymore. That's how he talks, kind of like sort of passive, like not as hungry. So I tell him, get out in the garden. He's doing gardening now that it's summer, getting out and using his muscles and picking up a few heavy things once in a while. We're not dead, right? Like just because we're older and maybe a little bit more fragile doesn't mean we can't go and lift a heavy, garden pot and move it over here. I want you to keep using your muscles. Keep using them. Use it or lose it, right? We know that. But this is the reason that we have reduced appetite. Also, as you can see from the picture, maybe there's a medication that is like stunting your appetite. Medication can do that. The other thing that is a natural occurrence, and this is one that I want you to keep in mind, is that we produce less hormones in our body as we age. The hormone that triggers the hunger in our body, we actually just produce less of that hormone. So now we've got two things: lower muscle mass, lower hormone equals not as hungry. Now, I still have a pretty strong hunger feeling. Like in the morning, I get the hunger pangs, I'm hungry. Lunchtime, I'm going to admit this, like this is weird. I am doing, and I don't have it here right now, but I do have my vegetable smoothie in the mornings now, which is, it is packed full. I should do a class on smoothies. It is packed full of dense vegetables like zucchini. I put avocado, zucchini, a couple inches of cucumber I put in. What else do I put in there? The avocado, did I mention that? A little bit of coconut oil for brain health. A little bit of Celtic salt or Himalayan salt to make sure I'm getting good sodium in my body. And I drink this a vegetable smoothie in the mornings. Well, I'm not hungry till about 2. I'm not hungry for lunch because I'm having that. But that, as well as the fact that I'm now in my second half of my 50s, I think my appetite is slightly changing. I don't plate my food like I do with my husband anymore. We used to plate it exactly the same, exactly. And sometimes I might not finish, but most of the time I'd eat all my plate. But now my plate is 2/3 of my husband's plate now, 2/3, which kind of makes sense. Oh, that's great, V. You had your green smoothie too. And and by the way, once you recalibrate your taste buds, which, you know, I do talk about it in other classes. And by recalibrating your taste buds, that's from like cutting out the sugars that you don't need and all that kind of stuff. After a while, if you have your vegetable smoothie and you put a bit of fruit in it, it's going to taste too sweet. So then you're going to remove all the fruit from it. So my smoothie is actually all vegetables with a little bit of squeeze of lime or lemon, which is a fruit. But other than that, I don't have any because it's too sweet then for me. All right, so now we've talked, let's just go back. So what are the, we've got social factors, living alone possibly, on a fixed income, reduced appetite, lower muscle mass typically, lower hormones in our body that trigger the hunger. That's number 2. Third factor, did you know this one? I did not know this. We actually have a little bit of a reduced sensitivity to smell and taste. Now, it doesn't mean like you don't have it. Like it's not like if you're a smoker and you can't taste anything. I'm not talking about that. I'm just saying that the subtleties, the little bit of sensitivity is reduced. So for example, I give the example, you know, you come home from work and you put the key in the door and you walk in the door and you're like, whoa, what is that amazing smell? I can smell mushrooms. Oh, somebody must be making mushroom soup or a mushroom casserole, because you love mushrooms, for example. So you come up the stairs from the garage and you come into the house and you go, oh my gosh, it smells so good. I could smell it like as soon as I put the key in the door. You're in your 30s, you're in your 20s. Now, fast forward, you're in your 60s, you're coming back from your volunteer job, or even maybe you're still working. Put the key in the door, you come in. You don't smell anything. Yeah, maybe there's something, but I think I smell something. I don't know. Can't tell. Put your jacket away. You come up the stairs, maybe a bit slower than when you're in your 20s, but you come up the stairs. Now you're in your house and you're like, you walk into the kitchen. Oh, hi, honey. How are you? Oh, what are you making? So visually you're seeing it. And now you can actually identify that there's a smell. I think I can smell mushrooms. You go over, oh, you're making me my favorite mushroom soup. Do you see the difference? It's not that you all of a sudden don't have any smell or any sensitivity to taste. It's just that you're not as sensitive to it. So Camilla's saying you can hardly smell anything anymore. Okay, well, there's another thing that can affect our sensitivity. And it is unfortunately medications. Now, Camilla, I don't know if you are on any medications. There are some medications that dull our taste buds, our taste. I can tell you as a little hack that is not on the slides, because I've been learning this from doing another nutrition program that I'm involved with myself, because I'm always learning. Again, our taste buds get dulled by medication, too much sugar, too much, even when you drink hot coffee, you're numbing your taste buds temporarily. If you want to get more acutely better at tasting your food, my suggestion is stick to whole foods, fruits and vegetables. Stop eating the processed foods with all the hidden sugars, because the sugar is what's numbing your taste buds. The sugar. You can't taste anymore, then you need more, then you need more, then you need more. Who wants us to eat more and more and more? Not your child, not your daughter, your son, or your spouse who's trying to help us eat a healthy life. It's the food marketers. Why? Because they make more money. What's their number one? Make more money. More money. How do I get Verna to eat more of this product? Put a little hidden sugar in there. She's going to go, oh, this tastes pretty good. I don't know why, but I really love it. I'm going to have a second. Oh, I'm going to have a third now. Oh, I need to go buy some more of whatever that is. That is the reason our marketing is doing it. So I'm not specific on which medications might numb your taste and your sense of smell, but there could be something in one of these. Now, this is just a slide. I didn't specify specifically that if you're on heart or blood pressure or pain medications, that does it. But if you've noticed a change, talk to your doctor. Talk to your pharmacist. Actually, your pharmacist is the person who really knows the stuff, and they'll say, yep, when when you're on this particular thing, you might notice a less sensitivity to taste. So if you're feeling yourself disinterested in food, you might want to make a few changes with that. Now we come to number 4. This one is important. Gastrointestinal issues. Why is that when we get older? Why do we have a bit of heartburn? Why is it just not easy to eat that steak anymore? Because as we age, now this isn't all bad news. This is just awareness. I want you to be aware of these things so that you can make some changes. Our intestines just are less efficient at absorbing nutrients. So we're getting less good stuff from our food that we're eating. Now there's ways to increase the absorption of stuff, and we'll talk about that. Our digestion actually slows down as we get a little bit older, so it takes us longer to empty our stomachs. So maybe the 8-ounce steak that you were able to polish off at a dinner, now maybe you're only eating 5 ounces or 6 ounces. And maybe the things you can do to improve is chew your food a little bit longer. Give your body that extra boost by chewing your food. You remember, digestion starts where? Here in the mouth. Digestion starts in the mouth. All right, so looking at gastrointestinal issues. This one's a big one, and I saw this, well, I'll talk about 2 things. I'll talk about the second one in a second, and I'll give you the slightly personal story. But as we get older, remember I mentioned the muscle mass. Guess where we have muscle mass? Here as well, near our jaw. We got muscles here, right? You can feel them. Those muscles also start to get smaller. We have muscles in our face, in our neck and up in here. So chewing and swallowing might become a little bit harder. I remember my grandmother, it was almost painful watching her. She'd be like this to swallow her food. She, for whatever reason, had some issues with swallowing food. She was losing muscle mass and she lived till she was 97. So she lived a long life, but she always had trouble swallowing. So she would avoid certain foods. And what happens when we have gastrointestinal things? We start avoiding stuff, right? Oh, I can't eat nuts anymore. It upsets my stomach. I can't eat bananas on an empty stomach. I get heartburn. I can't eat this. I can't chew steaks very good. So now I'm going to stop eating nuts and eating meat. Which leads me to the other part of the gastrointestinal issue, dental issues. How many of us have had suffered from some dental issues? Any of us? I just went to the dentist last week. So when I went to visit my dad, I go to my dentist because my dentist is over there. I try to go to the dentist 3 times a year now to get my teeth cleaned. In the beginning, it was once a year. And then at one point, I think I went to twice a year. I pay money to get my teeth cleaned the 3rd time in the year because I'm worried. I don't want to end up with dental issues in my 70s and 80s. I don't. And the reason I say this is, so my mom passed away in her 70s and she had great teeth, no problems. My dad's now in his 80s and he's had some dental issues. When he cracked a tooth back here, he couldn't chew food. He was eating like soups and things only, and he lost a bunch of weight. Dental issues, you don't want dental issues, but if you do, it's going to affect your nutrition. It all kind of relates, doesn't it? But we don't think about these things. Like when you're 15 years old, you're not thinking about not being able to chew, some food. Okay, so those are the 4 things that affect our nutrition as we age. So now let's look at a little bit of basic teaching. And this is something you're going to learn, and then you're going to be able to teach it to somebody else. What is our nutrition made up of? The basic nutrition is, number 1, macronutrients. Macronutrients, macro meaning large scale, large, macro. And we have 3 subgroups. Now, most of us are used to this, right? Most of us are used to hearing about these 3 macros. What are they? Fats or carbohydrates, proteins, and healthy fats. So we want carbohydrate-rich foods, we want protein-rich foods, and we want healthy fats. We want all 3 of those things. Those are our macros. We eat them in quite big amounts. Then there's 6 things basically for basic nutrition. So we just covered 3 of them. What are the other 3? The micronutrients. And what are they divided into? Vitamins and minerals. Vitamins and minerals. So we've got macros, carbs, protein, fats, micros, vitamins, minerals. And what's the 6th one? Let's not forget the 6th one. We need this one to survive. Water. That's essential to us. In fact, you can only live about 3 days without water, and then you die. You can live, I think up to over 3 weeks without food. I mean, air, oxygen, we can only last a couple minutes, or maybe not even seconds, minutes. I'm not sure how long we can hold our breath at this point. So those are your 6 things that make up your basic nutrition: 3 macros, 2 micros, and water. So if you wanted to teach somebody this, you can teach them these things. And you're going to learn this. Now, I'm going to give you a little hint on my class next week, on Friday next week. I'm teaching a class called Today's Food Lifestyle Trends. Today's Food Lifestyle Trends. It's going to be next Friday on June 25th. Try and find it on the schedule. And if it interests you, please sign up. It'll probably sell out. I'm guessing if people find out about this class. It's my first time teaching it next week. I'm going to teach you how to understand every diet out there, because it's all based on the same similar things, but you're gonna have a different understanding on what it means for all these different diets out there, so you can make sense of it, so you can figure out what would be good for you. So those are the 6 components of nutrition. Now, to end the class, well, we're not quite finished, so we have time to talk and answer any questions. I'm going to talk about the 3 things that I think are super, super important for all of us if we can get that into our diet. The first one is omega-3 fatty acids. You've heard me talk about it in other classes. Omega-3 fatty acids. Why is this important? Because it's essential, because our body needs it to do certain processes in our body. If you don't have the omega-3s, you would die. So you are getting it somehow, because we can't manufacture it. We can't develop it inside our body. We can't create it in our body. We have to get it from our foods. So it's mainly found in fatty fish, the oily fish, like sardines and tuna and mackerel and salmon. It's also found in seeds like flax seeds and chia seeds and what's another one? And hemp seeds. It's found in soybeans and canola oil and walnuts. All of those are sources of omega-3. So if you're vegan and you just don't like the taste of fish, that's okay. You're still covered. You've got all these other areas to get your omega-3s. I feel that a lot of us are lacking in our omega-3s. Now, I'll just give you a teeny tiny lesson. You hear about omega-3s and you hear about omega-6s. Well, those are essential as well. But guess what? Omega-6s, we should have it like one-on-one. So omega-3s are here, your omega-6s should be here, right? Around the same. But what's reality? The reality is like this: 15 omega-6s to 1 omega-3 is typical in most people's diet. That's what most people's diet looks like. You're trying to get it to be like this, one-on-one. So where's the omega-3s? In our plant oils that are in all the packaged foods. Like if you look at any packaged foods, they're going to have that. Now I'm just looking at my slide. I should probably take canola oil off there because I think in my other classes, I am promoting that we use olive oil or coconut oil or avocado oil and stay away from the seed oils. Like, at one point I was eating grapeseed oil a lot, and I was eating, I don't know, what was it? Flax. And so grapeseed oil was really big. Peanut oil, people were doing peanut oil. There's some of those things. The reason canola oil, you can have some good canola oil, let me just say, but for the most part, our canola oil is GMO'd, genetically modified now from the crops where it comes from. And so I don't promote canola oil anymore. I should take this off the slide, and I will. I'll change that slide. I'll put olive oil. That's probably what I should put on here because that's a good oil to get your omega-3s. So omega-3s, start consciously thinking about having omega-3s in your diet every day. You need that good oil in your body to lubricate your cells in your body. Avocado oil is great. I love avocado oil. And people are scared of coconut oil because it's a saturated oil. Do you know that your brain loves coconut oil? It's a medium chain fatty acid, and kind of like the avocado, coconut is great for mind health and brain health. The second food, we've forgotten about this one because we don't see those commercials anymore. Drink milk, good for you, all that stuff. I'm glad we don't have those commercials anymore. Many of us are allergic to or sensitive to dairy products. In fact, dairy is in most people a pro-inflammatory food. And if you've heard me talk about, we want to shrink our bodies, we want to bring down the inflammation in our body, dairy is actually typically a inflammatory food. So you notice I'm not talking about calcium here. I'm talking about getting our calcium to have good, strong bones and lower our blood pressure from, look at the picture, green leafy vegetables, kale, collard greens, spinach. All of those things are good for getting your calcium. I'm not going to get into big detail, but if you're going to drink milk and try to get your calcium from there, like the commercials all said, getting calcium from your dairy products is a little bit more complex of a process. Let me just say it simply like that. It's more complex to get the calcium out of the dairy products for goodness in your body. It is way better and way easier to get calcium from your green vegetables. So up your green vegetables, make sure your calcium's on track. We don't need anybody falling. That's the leading cause of hospitalizations are falls when we get older. I'm doing studying a course on aging well at home. And that was one of the statistics they said is we're falling and we're breaking our bones. We're fracturing our hip. We don't want that. All right, and then the last food that I want to share with you all is fiber. We know that our digestive system is slowing down. So we want to make sure we're getting that good fiber, like for example, from avocado, that beautiful fiber, from apples, gorgeous fiber that our body loves, and it goes through our pipes and keeps everything clean. What are the fiber rich foods? We forget, but we need around 25 to 30 grams of fiber a day. Are we actually getting that? Maybe at a later, maybe we were eating something, it was a trend, and so we were eating bran flakes or something, and we were getting our fiber. But what, say we got off of cereal, we're not drinking milk, where are you getting your fiber from? From your nuts, from your seeds, from your fruits, from your vegetables. And then, you know, lesser amounts maybe from whole grain cereals, which I don't really promote eating cereals for breakfast. Whole grain breads, which are okay. But again, if wheat is something you're sensitive to wheat, that might not be the way you're going to get it. Brown rice. I love brown rice. I eat brown rice quite a bit. Yes, I mean, you don't have to be young to like fall or hurt yourself and then end up never back to what you were like before. Because, you know, you fracture something, like, let's just prevent ourselves from fracturing a bone. Like, I don't need to just see how long it takes my bone to heal. I just don't want to fall in the first place. So there's lots of fiber rich foods, but get it in your vegetables, get it in your fruits. Don't be afraid of eating fruits. That is natural sugar in your fruit. And I think that that's okay. The benefits from getting all that beautiful fiber and vitamins and minerals in that dense apple or orange or banana, I think takes over the fact that you might be getting some natural sugar in your diet. Hey, start with cutting out all the sugar from processed foods before you start worrying about the sugar you're getting in the apple that you ate in the morning. I mean, even if you're diabetic, like, I feel like natural sugar from an apple is better than having that hidden sugar in something else. All right, so we're coming to the end of the class, and we have lots of time to ask any questions if you have any. But today we have learned how nutrition actually really changes as we age. So we are aware of it. The main thing is to be aware of these changes so that you know, hey, Ravina mentioned that my muscle mass is a little bit less, so I'm going to need a little bit less calories. So maybe eating 1,800 calories is okay. I don't have to try and get 2,300 calories into my body. We looked at those 4 factors that affect our nutrition, and some of them are lifestyle and environment. So we can look to change those things. We've talked about the nutrition basics. We've talked about those 6 things, the 3 macros, the 2 micros, and water. That is nutrition in a nutshell, 6 elements. And then we've talked about the 3 important foods again. So we've got our omega-3, we've got our calcium, and we have our fiber. Those are the 3 that I wanted to make clear to all of you today. And I want to just make a little mention. I'm just going to stop sharing just for a second. And I want to just say, because I know Camilla brought it up and others, if you're finding that your hunger is just not there are little hacks you can do to feel more hungry. You want to get your, you know how, they talk about just to get yourself feeling hungry again. If something like putting the smell of cinnamon gets your appetite going, if you're feeling like your appetite's dead and there's just like nothing, you're just not hungry anymore, I want you to stimulate your appetite by doing things like putting a little bit of or making a cup of tea. Like, you don't have to boil the water on the stove, but make a cup of tea and put a cinnamon stick in it. Smell the cinnamon, it'll rev up your juices. You'll sort of like, oh, I kind of feel like eating now. Sometimes if we're not hungry, just start by taking a few bites of something. Take a few nuts and start chewing on those. That might stimulate your appetite. You got to use these little hacks. Now, I myself have not gotten to the point where I'm not interested in food, because food is what I like. The center of my life is food still. Oh my gosh, I hate to say it, but it is. Like, I love food. I like to cook food. I like to hear about recipes. I could be on here for 2 hours talking about recipes, because I love food, and I still am able-bodied to be in my kitchen I call it my test kitchen, to test out different things, to make new stuff. Like, I made little protein balls. You know how you can make little protein balls with nut butters and mix in your nuts and seeds and make a really healthy ball and I freeze them, and then I put them in a bag, and when I can't think of anything to eat but I'm hungry, I go and grab a little ball. Now here's my cute little hack on that. If you're sort of tired of like the boring protein balls, I found a recipe where it grated carrot. So I grated the carrot and I added it to my like nut butter, and I added a bit of sea salt, like a really good sea salt, and I added in what else did I add in? I think it's the carrots, a little bit of nutmeg, I think, a little bit of cinnamon. So guess what my little carrot ball tastes like? It's still packed full of protein because it's got the nuts and seeds, the omega-3s and all that. It tastes like carrot cake. That's my little hack. So if I'm looking for a dessert and I don't want to have the sugar, I go and have my little carrot ball. And I mean, it's not tons of carrot, but it's shredded carrot. Oh, it's so good. But it gets my appetite. Either it satisfies my hunger, or for any of you, it might stimulate you to feel hungry again, if that's an issue. All right, so let's just have a look here. So I think that Nancy's checking the link. She might have put the wrong link up. I'm not checking the links right at the moment. So in summary, you know, we've looked at all the changes. We've talked about the 6 basics, and then the 3 things I'd like you to start adding into your diet, if you can, to help you with your nutrition. There's so many new classes coming out, so please keep checking the schedule every week. This week, tomorrow, is my first day teaching diabetes management. Even if you don't have diabetes, it's a great class to come because I talk about some hacks on weight management and just feeling better. And just none of us want sugar in our blood, right? Like even whether you're diabetic or not, we don't want added sugar sitting there floating around in our blood, because that can cause damage of other parts of our body. So look for the new classes that are out there. And I will send out an email to you shortly, and you'll have a little summary of what we learned today. And please, if you have time, fill out the feedback form, because that's very, very helpful to us when we see what feedback you give us. You can invite friends now, which is really fun, because I like that, because I think that's kind of a nice way to kind of make some friends here at Get Set Up, don't you think? Now, I haven't tried it, so I don't know what it asks for. So you might not have that person's email address. I don't know if it just pops up people that come to Get Set Up. I'm not really sure. I should actually try it. Maybe Nancy, do you know? Like so you have to sign up for a class first. Then there's a button to invite a friend, but I don't know what happens when you click the invite a friend. Does it say put in email address, or does it pull up a bunch of people? I'm not sure. So kind of maybe a nice way to maybe meet some new people here in this arena. And then you can also email us to help@getsetup.io. And if you do that, what that will do is it'll get right into our help center. You can suggest a class, you can talk about some passion you might have, and if there's a place to do an interest group. We welcome all of you learners to come and do something with us. I mean, maybe you've got a good setup. Like I see Gopal's got his headset on and he's looking very professional with his little mouthpiece there. Maybe you'd like to teach an interest group. I mean, you're looking very professional. I don't know if you're in your kitchen or where you are, but you know what? Like there is so many of you, and we've got people doing interest groups on nutrition. Actually, there's a lady now, can't remember her name, but she's a dietitian. She was a dietitian for like 35 years of her life. And now she does like a weekly interest group on basic nutrition. I went to it once, but I'll admit I haven't been to it since. So I know there's a gentleman who has diabetes, and he does an interest group on diabetes. And I've been to his class because I teach a class on diabetes, and I wanted to know what he covers. And it's more like you can get to know the same people. You might all have diabetes, you get together, you chat. Oh, you can copy the link or enter the email of a friend. Okay, cool. All right, good to know. Thanks, Nancy. What other interest groups have been? There's so many now. Do you guys feel overwhelmed by the amount of classes? Just curious, because I do a tiny bit. Like I'm just saying this honestly. When I go to look at the schedule now, there's so many new classes that I'm like kind of overwhelmed, and I'm not sure, have I done these classes? Have I not? Like, is this a repeat of something that maybe I did? They renamed it. Like, I'm kind of not sure because there's so many classes. But anyways, give us your feedback. I should give them that feedback. I think that
I just don't like when the classes overlap.
Oh, I
yes.
see.
On the hour and the half hour, it's like,
Yes,
"Hey."
yes. I don't like that either. And if you're on Zoom, I mean, technically, I mean, I'm not saying to do this.
Yeah, on the
Technically,
same time too.
you could, yeah, you can do a class, and if you have a computer, like I'm on my computer, but I also have my phone, I can sign up into Zoom on my phone, but because Zoom only lets you be in one at a time, which I guess is a good
idea.
thing, right? It's a good thing, because then we'd be like
Good
trying
idea.
to multitask our learning, and then you're learning nothing, right? I mean,
Yeah.
but even if you've noticed, I don't know if it comes up on your screen, it pops up to say someone's in the waiting room. People come into my class at like 5 minutes till it's ending. So maybe they're just trying to catch the last like few minutes. One thing you can do if you say missed a class because you were in a
Excuse me,
class.
but sometimes you won't get in. I was scheduled to take your class today at 11
Okay.
and I
wouldn't let
couldn't
you
get
in.
on. I
Yeah.
couldn't get on at all. I got on for a little bit.
And then what
A little
happened?
bit. I don't know.
It bounced you out.
Hmm.
Well, so here's the thing. I mean, we have a couple minutes, so I can just talk to you. We had some problems about 4 weeks ago with, you know, these I'm going to call them jackasses. Sorry for my language, but these people that have nothing better to do. They're young, they're old, they're middle-aged. I don't know. I'm going to think that most of them were men because that's who was coming into my class, but maybe there was women as well. And all their purpose was to disrupt our classes. And they came in gangbusters here into our Get Set Up classes. And one Saturday I was caught off guard, and there was a guy, he seemed normal, and then he started spouting out bad language or writing weird stuff in the chat. We hadn't been hit with that. We're like, who are these people? We're just like older adults trying to learn, like get away. Anyways, we had to like pump up our security. And so when we did that, we had to put waiting rooms again. Like we had it in the beginning, we took it away, and we thought we don't need people sitting in a waiting room waiting for me to click enter, you can enter, because we're starting to teach the class. We don't have time to do it. So our assistants like Nancy would be noticing that. So for 4 weeks, we were plagued with this, and they were sneaking in, they were changing their names. They were putting like, you know, their name Pat and coming into class, not Pat, not picking on you, Pat, or Margaret or whoever. They seemed normal. And then they would disrupt the class halfway through. They'd be quiet for half of it, and then they would start thank goodness they weren't showing pictures, because we don't allow that in the chat. So anyway, we got our security in way better shape, but now we're saying, please come to class on time. If you're after 5 minutes, we won't let you in. But things have sort of settled down a little bit. So Nancy probably would have noticed as we were doing this class, as somebody that I know, and I know comes to my class, I was just clicking the button while I was teaching to let them come into the class. And that's what Nancy's doing as well. But it was, yeah, Camilla, it was really, really horrible. Tweed, do you have a question?
Like in the morning when I come to your class, it's late about 2 minutes. I have to go to get set up.
Support,
and
yeah.
On the schedule.
Yeah.
And hit on the lunch. And after that lunch, the section, they come up to you.
Then it comes up. Okay. So we've changed some of the back end stuff is to be honest, to help make this secure, because honestly, I'll tell you, I was shooken by that, because it happened to me and I was scared in my next class. I think Nancy was with me, and it was sort of like, I was scared. I'm like, I don't recognize that name. Is that a real person? Is it one of you? Or is it like one of these disruptors? They seem to have like moved on. Like we made it harder for them to sign in and all that stuff. So I think they've moved on to bother somebody else. So we're going to keep the waiting room for now. But if for some reason you can't get into the class, you can just contact help and say, I want to get in this class. I need to get in this class, and they will get you in. So
well, they know my name and I know theirs. Nina, Joanne, all of them, because I keep calling.
Yes. And the other thing too, just to mention, I don't feel bad if you don't have a camera that you can turn on. I know some of you don't put your cameras on because you don't have one, or, you know, you might be shy to put your camera on. That's okay. But for those few weeks there, we wanted everyone to put their camera on so we could see, to make sure that you were who you said you were, because they were changing their names to people's names in the group, in the class too. Like they would change, not necessarily as Get Set Up Guide, but they would change the names to somebody who's already in the class. And then we didn't know who to kick out. Like it was very, very complicated. But I feel like it's slowed down now.
Just like me. This is Roman now.
I know, and you know, it was funny, Twee, in the last class where we were together, I mentioned it to Max, who came in a bit later, my help, to say that Roman is Twee, and I've already verified that because of the same thing. So if you see us struggling a little bit that way, that's the reason. But anyways, the thing is that I think that my manager, she's trying to change the times of classes. So arthritis isn't at, 11 o'clock every single Thursday, in case you've got a conflict at that time. So keep checking the schedule. And if it doesn't fit this week, go to the next week and see if it's at a different time. And you might be able to manipulate your schedule that way. So there, you guys got a big lesson on security and all the things we've been going through. And I don't know, Nancy, have you had any problems lately in any classes? Because I haven't.
No, not really. The past 2 weeks was pretty smooth.
Okay, good. So in the last 2 weeks, things are, fingers crossed it stays that way. Okay, we're at the hour. I want to thank you for being here. Thank you for all your knowledge and your questions and your smiling faces. It really helps me when I'm teaching. And I look forward to seeing you in other classes. I am teaching one more later on today, which
3 o'clock. 3 o'clock.
At 3 o'clock, I'm teaching. Okay, optimal eye health. Optimal eye health. That's a good one. And then I'm really, really excited about Saturdays. Well, Detox Your Home is in the morning, either 9 or 11 o'clock your time or 12 o'clock your time. But my diabetes class is in the afternoon, or 10:30 Pacific time. I guess that's 1:30, 10:30, 11:30, 12:30, something like 1:30 in the East.
Yes.
It's going to be fun. That's the first time I'm teaching it. So you guys can be my guinea pigs, in the first class. So, all right. Take care, everybody.
Okay. Thank you.
Take
See ya
care.
next
Thanks for
you.
being
Bye
here.
bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Thank
Bye,
you.
Margaret. Good to have you.